So, what I wanted to do tonight is to talk a little bit about this whole situation that's going on in Eretz Yisrael and in the world. Um, I don't usually like talking about politics, but here I think we understand that it's gone beyond politics. That it's gone to
Who's that? Oh, Kidybinski? Is he on?
just
Well, here's
everybody. Just I'm hearing some background noise. Okay, right. So it's gone beyond that now because now it's mamish about our experience of this world, and it has to do with our experience of Elikis, our relationship with Hashem, how the world is being conducted and guided by the hand of Hashem, with all the questions that we all have, but how can it be that Hashem guides it sometimes in this kind of a way of din, of dinim, of dinis. And I just want to start it is Parshas Bereshis, and the Baal Shem HaKudosh, the Baal Shem Torah on Parshas Bereshis starts off with two pieces, which I think are just very pertinent because they show us this idea of the fact that the world is being guided. And then I'll go into a free flow where I'll just talk about a little bit, just share a little bit of, my feelings and ways of looking at it, and how I think we should be looking at it in the healthiest way possible for our neshamas and to bring the world to the final tikkun, which you see is getting very close because this is very crazy, right? Think about it, COVID, then the whole Ukraine, and then this, right? It's really getting really wild, but now it's beginning to affect us personally as Klal Yisrael. So first, let's just the first piece we'll see inside is very short. The second piece, base, maybe we'll see part of it. Part of it maybe we'll skip because part of it's not as relevant, and then I just want to go into a just a open heart discussion. So the first piece, he starts with the word Bereshis, and he says, "Kabalti me'arav mechiach she'omer b'shem Baal Shem Tov." Right? This cipher Chias Chaim, the Baal Shem Tov Torah is lekitim from different sfurim that bring down from the Baal Shem Tov. So this person said, the Baal Shem Tov said, "K'sheyuvei Mashiach, when Mashiach comes, b'mhayrav Yomaini, as Hashem in our times." Yidrish kol ha-Torah meraisha l'saifa al kol ha-tzirifim shebachol taiva v'taiva. The entire Torah will open up, and we will see all of the secrets hidden within the entire Torah from beginning to end, and all of its tzirifim, all of its combinations in each word of the Torah. We know that even in Nigla sometimes we can see how Chazal can dissect a pusik and learn out all kinds of lemidim from the way a pusik is phrased. In this, we see even more so. The whole Tekinei Zohar is of 70 Tekinim officially, and really, there's more than 70 if you look at the whole thing. All just on the word Bereshis, right? Every word of the Torah contains tremendous seidos and tremendous wisdom. The Torah.
Rabbi, are we talking Mashiach ben Yosef, Mashiach ben David? Does it distinguish?
So this is Pashtus, at least according to what we learned in Sefer Tzniisa. This is something that's going to happen after Mashiach ben David comes. There's going to be a tremendous transformation of reality as we know it. It's going to be totally different. Even though it's scary to say this, we have to be careful who we say this to, but even the way that the Torah is observed, it says will tremendously transform and change, because the whole world will have to rewrite the physics books and the science books, because everything's going to change, because the world has to go through a process of being rebuilt, right? So we're talking after Mashiach ben David. So then it's going to come out that our capacity, our minds will sort of expand and increase to the extent that we'll be able to see every single thing that's hidden in the entire Torah. It says, "V'acher kach," and afterwards, "Yaseh mikol ha-Torah taiva achas." The whole Torah will become one word, right? V'yali tzrifim la'ayin mispar, and all of those infinite ideas and soidas that were hidden in the Torah that are infinite in number. Yiddish, I'll call it tzarifim. All of those tzarifim, all those combinations, all those soidas will all come into a oneness. So what we're really talking about is we're talking about the fact that we perceive the world now as separate objects, separate entities, because really the Torah is the blueprint for the world, right? So when we're talking about the Torah, we're talking about the world too. That's why the Torah starts with Bereshis, with creation, right? Is because the Torah is literally, Istakel Beraisa Bura Alma, right? Hashem Kaviyucha looked into the Torah, and with the Torah created the world. So therefore, the Torah is a map for the world. The world is a reflection of the Torah. It's all the same thing. We perceive it now as separate things, as separate entities, as separate forces, right? One of the things that's very challenging about any kind of a issue that has political ramifications is because you're always going to have the people to look at it from a this worldly perspective. And that means these people are going to be talking about it like, this person did this, that person did that, this person made a mistake, that person made a mistake, whatever it is, right? This is the leader of this side, that's the leader of that side. And they have a very tendency to like take it down to very cause and effect, as if this world was all that existed, right? Because that is the atheistic way to look at the world, after all, right? Is that everything's independent and everything's separate and so on and so forth. But we've spoken about many, many times by the Shirim about the idea that is an illusion. And the way that I've explained it is just like when you make a map, right? And you divide and you draw those lines of latitude and longitude. Those are a grid that is artificial, imposed upon a world that is one. Dividing the world into countries, dividing people based on race, color, skin color, religion, whatever it is, right, is artificial, because the world is one, the universe is one, and Kavichol, all of the elements are one, right? It's all the Ein Sof. It's all the Or Ein Sof that's coming down. It's just that the way it manifests on its most external level is in this way that we can, if we want to, divide it into parts. And those parts we can divide however we want to. In other words, we can look at, for example, Klal Yisrael against other nations, make that two groups, right? Or we can go into Klal Yisrael, we can separate Ashkenazim and Sephardim, or Hasidim and Litvaks, or whatever you want to do. Or then you can start looking at families, or at individuals, or in every individual, you can start looking at different body parts, cells, and so on and so forth. You can subdivide it as much as you want to. But we have like a default way in which we perceive it as my consciousness and the external reality. So we perceive ourselves as being independent and separate from the reality outside of us. But as we have spoken many times, all the Sfurim say that the Neshama, in fact, on the highest level, which is called Yechida, is not bound to the physical body at all. Even the Chaya, right, the next level down is a makif, surrounds the body, right? But the Yechida, that on that level of Yechida, that Yechida is one with everything. And if you think about it, can you really say that the edge of your skin is the end of yourself? You could argue either way. Maybe my body's not myself at all. Maybe just my mind or my consciousness is myself, and the body is just a vehicle I'm driving, right? Or going the other way, maybe my body isn't the end of me, because after all, my body only exists because it's in a certain type of environment. I wouldn't be able to survive in outer space without a spacesuit, right? So I'm connected to the environment around me. I'm connected to the people around me, to the community around me, right? So because of that, division into separate things is something our mind has a tendency to do, but it's not the actual nature of reality. The actual nature of reality is the oneness of the Lekis, which is everything. So Kavyochel, when we get to that level of consciousness to be able to perceive things that way, when Mashiach comes, and we get to that higher level of consciousness that's talked about, Yeshaya Novi says, Hashem, the whole world will know Hashem. Hashem echad u'shmoi echad. On that day, Hashem and His name will be one, meaning that all the different components and elements and partzifim that we see in the different oises of Yud Kai Vov Kai are all going to be perceived as one entity, kavyuchul, and so too, Hashem says the Torah will be perceived as one word. It'll all be, we'll be able to integrate it all and see that oneness. And then when we see that oneness, we'll realize that every single one of us and each consciousness that exists is mamish just the Ein Sof itself experiencing its own reality, except that it's experiencing it from different vantage points. One vantage point is my neshama, one vantage point is your neshama, but they're all the consciousness behind it, the havaya, which means to be, to exist, the existence, the consciousness, because I am, I think, therefore I am, is really not so accurate, because the thoughts themselves are external. I am because I am, right? The I am within each of us, the I, the consciousness, the true self, right? Not the whole thing that we've built up with our whole persona and how we act in this environment, how we behave in that environment. The true consciousness is just Elikis that's experiencing Kivyuchal, its own manifestation from so many different vantage points. And that manifests in many different types of ways. Some lives manifest in ways that are kinder. Other lives manifest in ways that have more suffering. And at this point, it's very, very difficult for us to deal with that, right? Why is it that one person suffers more, another person suffers less? Maybe it's relative, because some people could be in very intense physical suffering, but their minds could be on a more enlightened type of a plane where it doesn't affect them as much. Others could have everything around them in the physical world perfect, but be suffering from anxiety or depression, right? And so their world is miserable, even though it seems to be ostensibly on the outside, everything is going fine. Suffering is universal. And we'll get into that in a second. But first, I just want to see the next piece. So the next piece, I'll summarize more because I really do want to get to deeper content. But in the next piece, in piece Bais, basically he asks the interesting question that the Rizal already asked at the beginning of Eitz Chaim. It's a very fascinating question. And over here, he says, Vashanov says that all the Rishonim ask this question, which is Lama loy buru HaKadosh Baruch Hu olam koidem zman hazeh. Why did Hashem not create the world before the time when He created the world? Always action is better than non-action. That's the assumption, right? In other words, non-existence is existence is better than non-existence. A world is better than no world. So why is it that Hashem only decided at some point to create the world? I know there's an obvious problem with this question, but I'll get to it in a second. But let's just finish the words first. Why did Hashem's will change from not wanting a world to wanting a world? That suddenly at the time when He created the world, looks like ostensibly at that time He wanted a world. Okay? Not before that. Hashem doesn't change. So what changed? Before He didn't want a world, suddenly He wants a world. And says, because it says in Pusik in Malachi, in the Nuvi, it says, Ani Hashem lo shanisi, I Hashem, I never change. So what's this change here? So the obvious problem with this question, which probably is, a lot of you are thinking, is who says there was even such a concept as before and after? Time wasn't created yet at that point. So who says there was such a thing? But yet we see that creation began at a certain point, and before that there was non-creation, right? So whatever it means before and after, before the concept of time existed, how long exactly Kavyuchal did Hashem exist before He created the world? Well, it will be an infinite amount of time. And then at some point in that infinity, there was suddenly a will to create the world. Why at that specific point? Yeah, that's basically what the question is. So let's see very big his answer. As well, Tiritz Alzay, the answer to this is, he says, Hashem is not like a human being. A human being, the wisdom that he has now is something that he acquired. He didn't have it before. And his chachma is acquired. Wisdom is acquired. We grow wiser as we experience more, as we grow older, as we learn more things. So because of that, we change. And also a perfect person is imperfect and can make mistakes, obviously. Al derech mushal, for example, that a person sees that he needs a place to live. Al kain, so then when he, assuming he doesn't hire a contractor, assuming he does it himself, when he becomes wise enough to know how to build a house, then he'll build himself his house. In other words, he has a lack, he has a chizuk, and doesn't have where to live, but he also doesn't have necessarily at that time the knowledge on how to build the house. He can only build the house once he has the knowledge, right? But his Hashem, his chachma is his essence, kivyuchol. It's not acquired. Hashem doesn't become wiser. And he also doesn't lack anything. That roots and that desire that he had to create the world, it's not that he suddenly decided to create a world when the world came into creation, because he doesn't acquire anything, he doesn't gain anything, he's always the same. So just as Hashem is infinite and always existed, so too his will to create the world always existed. And from Kavyuchel, the infinity of infinities, from the very beginning, Kavyuchel can't talk about beginning because there was no beginning to Ein Sof, but Kavyuchel, from that infinity, there was always infinitely that desire to create a world. Right? It wasn't that just came up at a certain time. There was nothing changed. So he created the world at the exact time that he had always wanted to create it. Because he always wanted to have created it at that specific time. That was always the plan, because nothing changes there. So with that, we can say that there was no change in the roots in Hashem. It's deep and it's confusing, but basically, the idea is, and you're going to see with the next piece, the next paragraph, where he really brings this out, that everything was always planned out. The roots in Hashem was always exactly the way it was. There was no shini, there was no change in the roots in Hashem, right? So in other words, that means that in all that infinity before the world came into existence, there was always the plan to create the world at that exact specific moment. It doesn't answer why it's that specific moment. I don't think we can ever understand that or know that, right? Because that's already kivyuchel, the mind of Elikus, which is something totally beyond us. But that was always the plan. So he says, so the proof for this is the world that's going to be, when Mashiach comes, the way the world's going to be, the world that's completely Shabbos, which means a world of perfection, a world where we don't have diseases, suffering, pain, enemies, danger, fear, anxiety, right? A world that's Kilei Shabbos, it's totally menicha, rest, right? A world of perfection. That's the plan. Tzadikim Yoshim Vatrasayim Bereshayim. We have this idea that there won't be any more, like I said, the whole physical world will be different. There will no longer be eating, drinking, chasana, children. You know, the Gemara in Bereshis says, only the tzaddikim are going to sit with their crowns on their heads and the henef and the ziv hashchina and delight in the and the splendor of the Shekhinah. We have no idea what that means yet at this point. But like I said, we'll have to reread all the books, all the science books. It's going to be a whole transformation of reality. That's the plan. We know that's the plan, even though we're before that now, right? On that day, Hashem will be by himself. There will only be Hashem, Kavyuchel. That's going back to what we said before. There's going to be this oneness, right? So that perfection is going to be then is much greater than the perfection that is now in the world, right? And then for sure to do such a thing, to create a perfect world, is for sure the best thing that could possibly be. Why didn't Hashem create it perfect from the beginning? No, what do you have to say? That rather it is that everything has to come exactly at the time when it's supposed to come. In other words, Kavyuchel, it's literally evolution, except not in the scientific sense, in the spiritual sense. Hashem wanted that there should be first nothingness, then a world should come into being, a world that's imperfect, and a world that slowly becomes more perfect and more perfect and more perfect. And we know, of course, from the Rizal, that's all through us, and through Torah and mitzvahs, and tikkinim, and tefillas, and all the good things that we do. We're making the world better and better and better. And that has its hashpu on the chitzonius. And that's why the world is getting better as time goes on because of us. And that's why science is inventing new things that are helping us, and why medicine is becoming more advanced. So we don't have to have our teeth pulled with a wrench, right? And there's anesthesia and all these things. It's all because of the tikkunim that we're making with the Torah mitzvahs. But that was the plan from the beginning, that the world should slowly manifest and slowly come into, starting from an imperfect form and eventually come into that perfect form, right? That was the plan from the beginning. And so kavyuchel, just like when a painter starts painting, at first you might not know what it is that he's painting. You just see some splotches of color here and there, but in the mind of the painter, he sees the finished product, kavyuchel. So too, the splotches of the world, right? Looks sometimes like an imperfect thing, as it's coming into being, as the pieces are falling into place, kavyuchel. But that's kavyuchel the roots in Hashem, that it should be in specifically that kind of a way, right? So he says, just like Shabbos, why isn't every day Shabbos? Why does it have to come after the 6 weekdays? The world is designed that way. They have to go through downs and eventually get to the ups, right? And sort of with Shabbos, it's like a back and forth, right? Because we have Shabbos and we have weekdays, Shabbos and weekdays. That's the ups and the downs. Remember everything we always talk about in the Shirim, right? You have the hills and you have the valleys. You have the ups and the downs. You have the godless and katness, high times and low times. And it needs to exist in that type of a way, because the Elikis that's within us, that's experiencing this reality, wants bedafka to be in that type of a way, because we can't appreciate good without evil. And we can't appreciate good times without bad times. And we can't appreciate godless without katness. Just like I always say, I know the people that live on the mountains, they love the mountains, they hate the valleys. So they fill up all the valleys. And then what do you have? You lost your mountains too. There's no light except if there's also darkness, right? Otherwise that we wouldn't comprehend that concept of light. And because of that, it's designed dafka in that type of way, that there's times that are better and times that are worse, in order that we should be able to fully appreciate and fully enjoy and get the full simcha from the good times, kiviyuchol, right? And to realize that we're integrated, like we talked about on the Parsha Shir and Parsha Zuchar. The fact that Amulek is our enemy is a relationship between us and Amulek, because the furthest thing from relationship would be two people that don't know each other at all. That would be like, I don't know him, he doesn't know me. No shaykhis, right? Even that is a shaykhis, because if you think about it, you can say all the people that I don't know, well, the connection to me is that I don't know them. So even that's a shaykhis, but that's the furthest thing. Whether someone's your best friend or someone's your worst enemy, that is an equal level of relationship. It just happens to be that one relationship is positive, one relationship is negative. One relationship is b'chinas chasudim, one relationship is b'chinas gviris, right? But ultimately, it's still relationship, and it boils down to this word from the Kotzker, which I always quote. Nobody gets it, I don't think. Everyone quotes it wrong and misunderstands it. The Kotzker said that if I am I because I am I, and you are you because you are you, so I am I and you are you. In other words, nothing. We have no connection. But if I am I because you are you, and you are you because I am I, then I am not I and you are not you. Rather, we're one unity that connects the two of us. And if you look at it that way, that our relationship with everything and everyone in the world is integral to the whole. And we need to have an amulek to fight. And we need to have a Yetzirah to fight. And we need to have people that are against Klal Yisrael. And we need to have people that are before Klal Yisrael. And all of it's part of one picture, one seamless, beautiful painting that we'll see at the end why it's beautiful. Hashem talks about this many times. That a bunch of places, in Sefer Daya especially, I've quoted them different times by the Shirim, things like that Gehenna is really Gan Eden. We just don't have the power to see it yet. Gvir is really Chasudim. We just don't have the power to see it yet, right? But the idea is that the world is designed in that way. There's meant to be ups and downs, and positives and negatives, and good times and bad times, and all kinds of things going on. So he goes on with this, and right. So that's basically the point that the creation was meant to unfold in that type of a way. Then he goes into Yediyah and Bechira and how that connects to this. I don't really want to go into it now because it'll get us into a whole rabbit hole. Because I want to focus on literally on getting to our current situation, how we should view it. But the idea is he tells us essentially that there's such a thing as aligning with the roots in Hashem or not aligning with the roots in Hashem. In other words, a person can go with the flow of reality and be makabel everything Hashem gives him, whether he sees it as good or he doesn't see it as good, but he knows that really on the inside it's actually good, right? And he can go with it and go with the flow, or he can go against the roots in Hashem and fight and struggle and resist, right? Which is only going to cause him pain and resentment and anger and frustration. So he says, so he ends off this piece by saying, Hudam Yaitev Masav Kmoishehi Harutzin Shel Hashem is Burach. So a person wants to align himself with the roots in Hashem, which is, of course, for us to keep going in a minyan betuchen in every situation that we have, and do Torah and mitzvahs and do everything fully. And he shouldn't bring down upon himself the idea. This is a part that we skip, but there's an idea of the going with the roots, and then there's an idea of something that he calls yediyah, which is kivyuchol against the roots. But the point is that's what he says. Ke'idiyah shel hara nivras. Because the knowledge of evil, the existence of evil, is created, and this is the point I want to get to, to be a nisayan, to be a challenge. That's why evil is here, to challenge us, right? Just like Kaviyuchel, you need to have I always compare it, this might sound like a funny mushal, but I compare it to a video game. You need to have like the Mario needs to have the little turtles and mushrooms to stomp on or get stomped on, and you need to have that for the thing to have any meaning to it. Otherwise, it's just walking across a field and it means nothing. So kaviyuchel, it's a sign, it's a challenge. We're given challenges, and we're given those challenges in order to strengthen us and better us, and we're given the hurdles in order to feel good once there's no hurdle, right? In between, or once we overcome the hurdle, even better, right? It says, like the Pusik says, Kimanasa Hashem elikaichem eschem. Hashem is testing you, right? Ki olam hazeh, hi olam hanesayan. This world is a world of nesayan. It's a world of challenge. It's a world of tests, right? Shenishlecha haneshama liyoseh ben nesayan b'olam hazeh. The Hashem was sent down here to have challenges. That's why we're here, right? Shem yaseh achet yita achrei idea. Again, the person can fall into the wrong path, the path of chet, the path of resisting the roots in Hashem. And if he doesn't do a chet, if he follows the way of Hashem properly, then he aligns himself with Hashem's roots, right? That's the idea. And he says, right? The idea of a korban. Shinachas riach lefunai says that gives Shanachas riach shemarti v'nasei ritzayni, that Hashem can say on us that we're doing His will. That is essentially the purpose of Nisayan and of challenge and of evil. Behoven Zahai to understand this well. So with this, I want to just I think it's not so good to be too involved in the craziness of what's going on right now. The reason I'm saying that is not because we should be running away or pretending the challenge doesn't exist, or pretending that the atrocities that are happening are not happening, or hiding our head in the sand like an ostrich. It's just push it to protect one's neshama to be able to serve Hashem better. Being too involved in it, and especially seeing graphic images of bad things happening, is not healthy for the neshama. It causes anxiety, and it causes a person to fall in his avodas Hashem. The idea is that Hashem is manifesting now an intense level of din, an intense level of gvira, like we haven't seen for a very long time. We have to be aware of the fact that we're afraid. But what exactly is it that we're afraid of? Are we afraid of death? Well, we shouldn't be. It says that every single neshama that dies al kiddush Hashem, whatever kind of a yid that might be, if a yid dies al kiddush Hashem, it says that neshama is brought up by the Shechina, l'fnei kisei hakuvod, it's brought to the kisei hakuvod, and the Shechina says to Hashem, look what I brought before you. Look at this beautiful child of mine that I brought before you. If a person dies al kiddush Hashem, it's the greatest tikkun that a person could ever have. So that's not what we're afraid of. If that has to happen to us, or anything else has to happen to us, whatever it is, it's min hashamayim. What we have to do over here is we have to look at the nekidas hatoif and everything. We have to look at the positive points. We have to look at the chasudim among all this pain and the suffering that's on the outside. Because Chazal say, there's the Mamar Chazal, that when a dog is being hit by a stick, the dog bites the stick. It thinks the stick is the enemy, right? It doesn't realize that someone's holding the stick. But be'emes, kiviyuchol, there's someone behind, right? For us to think that there are people who can harm us, that is just an illusion. Those people, kiviyuchol, are an agent of higher forces that some of which are against Klal Yisrael and opposite of Toif, the Samach Mem, the Koiches of the Samach Mem, but the Samach Mem himself, Kaviyuchel, is a manifestation of Elikis too, because everything is a manifestation of Elikis, the Toiv and the Ra. Remember that the way we say the Pusik at the beginning of Yoitzer Or, Yoitzer Or Borei Choshech, right? Hashalom Borei Es Hakol, right? It doesn't really say Hakol, it says Ra. Hashem, Kaviyuchel, is the source also of Ra. And how can we possibly understand this? We can't understand this because Ra is something that sickens us, right? But again, it's also Elikis, it's just Elikis behester, and we have to remember that everything is Elikis, and there's a plan that's been planned out from the beginning, and it's playing out, and we're here in the final stages of it, which is actually quite exciting to be here. Chazal say, in the Gemara says in Sanhedrin, that at the same time we should want to be in those times and also not want to be, because the times at the end are going to be so crazy and so challenging and so weird, and things are going to be happening all over the place and so fast, such a strange way, right? But at the same time, we have to realize that it's mamish all part of the plan, and it's all for the good. We have to focus on the good things. I don't have any access to social media. I don't have time for it, but someone shared a few things with me. A picture, a beautiful picture of like these Frimaiden with the black hats and the schwarze Socken, the black socks and the long frocks, bringing entire things of pizzas to the Israeli soldiers. Isn't that beautiful? Isn't that wonderful? Or I saw a picture of a little girl. She's sleeping on her father's talus bag. She couldn't sleep because she heard the rockets and the bombs at night. And so her father gave her the talus bag to sleep, so that talus will protect. So we have to look at the good things and look at the positive things. We have to look at the or that's behind the choshech and focus on that. Because if we focus on the choshech, it only just drags us down to choshech. If we counter hatred with hatred, anger with anger, it's only going to bring more klippa and more samach mem. We have to focus on the toiv. We have to look at the goodness and be grateful for every second that we're alive. Be grateful for every breath that we take, for the families that we have, for all the good that we have in our lives, for our friends and our communities, and more than anything else, we have to focus on achdus. My son's is now in Borough Park. He's going to be in a yeshiva there. He said that the entire city came together to say Tehillim in the middle of the street. There was helicopters all over the place protecting them, and police and SWAT and whatever. And everyone, Satmar and Lubavitch together. Satmar and Lubavitch went always the machloikas together, saying Tehillim together with all the other Yidden, everyone together. People by Litvish Hasidish, it doesn't matter. Modern, even non-religious, all Jews, right? We have to remember that we're all connected in a very, very deep, deep, deep way. We're all family, right? And being aware of that, and being grateful for what we have, and grateful for the console that we have, is transformational. I'll share with you on my screen one picture that this friend also sent me. Very ironic. So now that, of course, the situation has gotten to what it is, and the other side has done what they did, so a lot of countries allied themselves with Israel, countries you wouldn't expect, right, in Europe and so on and so forth. But look at this. This is the arch of Titus. That Titus, when he destroyed the Beis Hamikdash, he when he came back to Rome, he carved this out. Over here, you can't see it so well, but on the sides, it shows the Roman soldiers bringing the menorahs and the kain from Beis Hamikdash and bringing them into Rome, and it's lit up with the Israeli flag. It's like it's Mamish Mashiach's times, right? This is like the most ironic thing. Who would have ever thought that the Arch of Titus would be shining with the Israeli flag, with the Magen David, right? So the avodah over here is connection, integration, ahava. Do more ahava, do more chesed, show more love to other Jews. Get rid of the biases. Love all Jews, whoever they are and whatever they are, right? And focus on gratitude. I mean, grateful for every moment that you're alive. And when we hear about chas v'shalom, other people that weren't fortunate to continue to live, know that they got a tremendous tikkun, a tremendous transformation that's above and beyond anything we could ever imagine, right? It's all kiloi toif. And of course, the koiches of evil are not going to have a kiyum, not going to have a permanence. It says Hashem is going to blow away the spirit of evil from the world when Mashiach comes, which just means he'll blow away that blanket that's covering everything and giving it that dark coloring. And we'll see how everything needed to be exactly that way that it needed to be in order for everything to come to its final tikkun, right? We can't understand until the picture is complete because we're living within time. Hashem's outside of time, so Hashem sees already the whole picture, but we're inside time, so we can't see it yet. But we have to take the word of all of the tzaddikim and all of the rebbes and the gedolim, the Sephardi gedolim, and everyone tells us this, that there's a plan and that everything is being guided towards that plan. Everything is being guided towards good. So my message to everyone is please, please do your best. This is the time to focus on good, on goodness, on kindness, on positivity, on connection to other Yidden, on taking on whatever kind of a Kabbalah you can take on that's not going to be too hard for you, that that you could take on in a gentle way. I know a person, the person I know, who comes from a religious family, and he went off the derech. His parents asked me to save him. I couldn't. Nothing I could do. I could just still be there for him, even in the situation that he is, be his one connection, so to speak, to Klal Yisrael. And this person, I saw him today. He started wearing a yarmulke again because of this. Because he said all of Klal Yisrael need to be be'achdas. He put on a yarmulke and he says he's going to try to keep Shabbos this Shabbos. Look at all these things. Look at all the positive things. And let's also follow that example and see in which areas we can work on ourselves and be misakin ourselves and raise up more nitzites and bring more of a tikkun so that the tikkun can come faster, so you don't have to go through so much of these times that are hard, right? So please, everyone, that's my message. Focus on the good. Focus on the beauty. Focus on the positive. And of course, we need to do whatever status we need to do, right? Bo'elam hazeh, to protect ourselves. They're saying tomorrow is supposed to be a little bit dangerous. All the schools literally have police around them and security guards. And it's a very strange situation, which we never had before, that even us in Chitzl are being so affected by it. So we have to do our shtadlus, what a responsible person does to stay safe, whatever that means. If anything looks suspicious, call 911, even on Shabbos, it doesn't matter, right? You're allowed to call 911 on Shabbos if you need to. If there's any type of anything looks suspicious, anything looks dangerous, there's strange people wandering around in Jewish areas, whatever you need to do to keep yourself safe. If you feel that for yourself, it'll be less anxious to stay home this Shabbos, there's nothing wrong with that either, right? Every person has to know their own selves and what's going to keep them in the most positive state of mind. How much ishtadlus do I need to do, and how much eminam betuchen do I have? And every person is different in that way. So everyone can do whatever ishtadlus makes them feel comfortable, but at the same time be aware that the Yad Hashem is guiding all of this, and don't be like the dog that bites the stick, and don't get involved in negativity and anger. There's Baruch Hashem created those people that's their avodah, and as Hashem, those people should be the Yad Hashem to make things safe again. But for us that are trying to grow and are trying to come to dveikus, negativity is extremely toxic. So you have to avoid it completely. You have to focus on simcha and finding the good and looking at every situation positively. So how are you going to interpret this? I'm telling everyone to be besimcha, and I was like weeping, right? But you can weep and besimcha at the same time. It's not a contradiction, right? The Kotzker also says that oval, you should never know a person that's right, that's oval, a person that's what do you call a mourner, someone who lost a family member. Oval just type is ich bin listig, which is in Yiddish, I am happy. A person can at the same time feel compassion for a Klal Yisrael that's suffering. And when the Klal Yisrael is suffering, the Shekhinah is suffering. So if the Shekhinah is suffering, then how can we not feel compassion? Right? And at the same time, maintain an inner level of joy and acceptance and trust in Hashem, betuchen and amina, that everything is okay, everything's going to be okay. This is all part of a greater picture and part of the Gila. But again, I remind everyone that getting back to the question of what is it that we're anxious about, what is it that we're afraid about, those neshamas that lost their lives have had the greatest tikkun possible. But unfortunately, there are those around them who are affected by that. And there are those who are in danger, currently speaking, hostages and whatever else. And so for those neshamas, ideally, if those people would be great balei dvaikas, then they wouldn't be bothered by the situation they're in because they would just be mekabel b'simcha the roots in Hashem. But since we know that most people are not on that level, so there's Yidden suffering. If Yidden are suffering, we need to feel that, and we need to feel that compassion, right? But at the same time, maintain a level of joy and trust and a minimum b'tochen Hashem that everything is okay, everything is going to be okay. As Hashem, we'll get through this, and we'll get through whatever else is still planning to be thrown at us. Hopefully, I think it's getting so crazy. It's getting very close to the end. I hope there won't be that much more. But we have to be strong, and we have to be connected together, all of Klal Yisrael, no matter who you are, no matter what kind of a hat you wear, or lack of hat, or lack of kippah, or whatever color shirt, or whatever color pants. It doesn't matter, right? We're all Yidden, and so we're all family. And together, as Hashem, we can get through anything. All right, everyone. Have a wonderful, wonderful Shabbos. Shabbat Shalom. And Bez Hashem, next week we should continue the Shirim. We should have a lot of Besiris Taibas in here. Bez Hashem, good news for Klal Yisrael. Kol to everyone. Good night. My pleasure. Shabbos.